And that's the study of, beginning the study of functions. The study of functions. And that's what college algebra is it's not the study of separate techniques and separate entities like radicals or factoring, or it's the study of individual functions. Then you go in and you take a look at them, and you look at them and they look at their characteristics, and it's going to be very similar to intermediate but different. And definition of a relation. A relation is a set of ordered pairs, x, y, that matches items in the domain, and usually they're the x values, unless we define them to be another letter, to items in the range, which is the y value. So if I were to draw an xy axis, and I look at this being the x-axis, that represents the domain. X values that are in the domain, and this representing the y-axis, that's going to be y values that are in the range as a result of x values in the domain, because you put in x and get out y. So if I just look at a set of ordered pairs, the domain is just the x values 1, 2, and 3, and the range is the y values 3, 2, and -1. There are probably more than 3 ways to represent a function, but here are the 3 basic ways, and depending upon what we're going to be doing, one is better than the other. You can look at essentially a set. Now a set is what this example is. That's a set. It's got curly-Q brackets, and it's a set of ordered pairs. And that's set notation. Now a map comes in handy, and it's like a multiple choice. I put the domain and the range, so the domain is 1, 2, and 3, and the range is 3, 2, and -1, and then I draw references. 1 is related to 3 because we have the coordinate point 1, 3. 2 is related to the y value 2. The x value 3 is related to the y value -1. It's the other half of that ordered pair, and that's a map. And a graph I'd set up my x, y axis, and I'd just graph the points. 1, 3, 2, 2, and 3, -1. And that's a picture of the relationship. If I look at the picture, it tells me several things. As I move from left to right, as x gets bigger, y gets what? Smaller. So it's a picture of the relationship. So we can say all kinds of things about the relationship. And you notice this is not a line. If I were to kind of do I'm going to pull pencil here, whoops, and just connect the dots, you notice that essentially they don't form a line. Looks like it's going to be more curved. So you can't find the slope because it's not a line. A function. A function is a relation. So essentially what we do is we take the set that has all relations in it, and then we carve out a piece that has special properties, and that piece we call functions. So every function is a relation, but not all relations are functions. A relation that matches one item in the domain to, so I'm only going one direction. I'm going from the domain to one item in the range, so it's called a function. We say a function is 1 to 1, 1x to 1y. We only care what the x's are doing. We don't care what the y's are doing. In an ordered pair, the x is called the independent variable. Normally because we would say, I choose. And the y is the dependent variable. And this is the result of choosing x. So it's a reaction to what x does. Y is always a reaction to what x does. X does something, y responds. That's why when we say we set up a T-bar chart, put in x, get out y, put in x, get out y, put in x, get out y, put in x, get out y. And if with our calculators, because our calculators only graph functions, we're only ever dealing with x's and y's. We put in x, get out y. Can't ever put in y and get out x on our calculators directly. Okay, here we go. Examples from the textbook. I liked it better before they made the change. There didn't used to be labels on top of it. Then you could take a look at it and say, Bob was dating both Beth and Diane. You know, he was kind of two-timing them. Did one know about the other? But now it's father-daughter, so it makes more sense. I guess students were having too much fun with the example in class, so they had to put labels on it. And we look at it and say, is it a function? Well, how do I know whether or not it's a function? I basically cover up the y values, because I don't care what y does. I'm only looking to see that x does. If I have an x value, does it only go to one place? So in other words, does only one arrow start? If I notice, Bob has 2 arrows starting from him. So that would mean it wouldn't be a function. So is it a function? The answer is no. You have 2, and this would correspond to x, that would correspond to y. You have 1x to 2 y's. And that's where the map comes in handy. I mean, if I have just an individual set of stuff, then a map is kind of nice. Because then you can draw arrows, and then it tells you whether or not it's a function. If Bob wasn't there, that would be a function. With Bob being in the mix, that's not a function anymore. It's a relation, but it's not a function. Because it's telling you the relationship. Level of income, level of education, and average income. And some of that could be a lie. And I say that because you take some of your trades. And since I've had experience with plumbers in the spring semester, they charge a lot. So they have pretty good money whenever they go out, especially if you've got a pretty good business. So usually they may have some trade school, but you're not looking at a college education. So is a college education necessarily, well, of course, what Bill Gates, did he ever finish college? No?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs never finished college either. And Bill Gates dropped out of school too. They had a good idea.
Steve dropped out of Harvard.
They were about Harvard. But look at that, he could probably buy Harvard now if he wanted to. Level of education, it says less than a ninth grade education, $18,120. Ninth to 12th grade, and I don't know when these numbers were done, 23,251. High school graduate, 36,055. Some college, that would be like an AA, 45,810. A college graduate, 67,165. Depends upon what you choose. Most teachers, public school teachers, are going to be down in the range of maybe $30,000, somewhere between high 20s and mid 30s to start. So that's college. So these numbers are, who knows. But the only question it is to us, cover up the Y values, is it a function? Yes. So if this represents the X values, that represents the Y values, we have 1X2, 1Y. That was exciting. Not particularly, but